Good morning, everybody. Thanks, everybody, so much for coming out here on Derby Monday. The activities are already in full swing, but we've got all other types of things that are going on in the city as well, including 365 days a year, appreciating and loving our neighborhoods here. That's one of the things that people love about our city. Our neighborhoods are flush with culture and authenticity, and we want to do everything that we can to preserve that. One of the most basic ways that we can honor the history is by preserving the historic architecture that we have in our properties and neighborhoods around the city. Louisville has 7 historic districts spread around our city. We've got a few of our Metro Council folks here today representing those. I saw David Tandy's here, and of course David with Russell. It's one of our great historic districts in the city. Bill Hollander with Crescent Hill. So thank you all very much for being here today. Let's hear it for our council people in attendance here. And of course, we've got some beautiful historic buildings throughout our city. You really don't have to go far. Obviously, we're in front of one today. We can throw a stone down that way and go to Whiskey Row. We can go that way and see all the Victorian mansions in old Louisville, the tremendous housing stock that we have here in West Louisville as well. So we are blessed by areas like Locust Grove, the U.S. Marine Hospital, Colonial Gardens, Peterson Dumanil Home, when you look at specific structures. So we're lucky as a city. And these type of properties are cornerstones of our environment that provide a sense of reference and a sense of place and provide that authentic Louisville experience that I just mentioned as well. And that's one of the things I get a lot from visitors to the city. They just say this city feels different than other places, and they talk about our food and they talk about the people, but they certainly talk about our architecture as well. And so for us as a city, it is important that we preserve these buildings to the greatest degree possible and that we encourage new development that complements our historic structures as well. So that's why today I'm really happy to announce the formation of the Historic Preservation Advisory Task Force. The purpose of this task force is to create better preservation planning strategies and policies that proactively identify areas where historic preservation and adaptive reuse should be prioritized. And I want to emphasize the word proactive. We have lots of great properties in our community, and many of them are in different states of repair or disrepair. Some are sit by themselves, others are part of a block, but we really have not positioned the city as well as we can to say, okay, here's our top 10 list, here's who owns them, here's possible development opportunities, possible partners, here's things going on around these properties so we can get ahead of any kind of issues that will cause last-minute complications, drama, et cetera, for the city. So this group is going to be doing some tremendously valuable work for the city. The task force members come from different backgrounds and areas of our city. So they include developers, landmarks commission members, representatives from the Kentucky Heritage Council, the Downtown Partnership, the Samuel Plato Academy, the Building Industry Association, and the Institute of Healthy Air, Water, and Soil. And many of the task force members are here with us today. Really appreciate your all's work and future work for us. Their duties include defining a system to inventory and prioritize the historic building stock of Louisville, identify historic buildings from endangered list and develop a treatment plan to achieve the best outcomes, recommending financial or policy incentives that support redevelopment and historic preservation, and suggesting best practices in redevelopment and historic preservation that can inform the comprehensive plan update that will be starting soon. I expect the task force will work for about 1 year before reporting out its findings and recommendations. Now, with the creation of this task force, as I just said, the city will now have a much better, much more proactive way to catalog our historic resources and identify best practices for adaptive reuse. The voice of the community is crucial in this process, so we invite the public to work with our task force so we can make sure we're seeing everything that we need to see throughout this process. The co-chairs for the Historic Preservation Advisory Task Force are two folks that are not strangers to our city. They have a lifetime of achievement and contribution, including in this area of historic preservation. Carol Jones Clay of Republic Bank is a former Landmarks Commissioner. She could not be with us today, but we are joined by Keith Runyon of the Healthy Urban Design and Preservation Louisville, and former Courier Journal executive whose historic knowledge of our city is really second to none. So I want to say thank you to both of them for accepting the honor and the work of doing this job. And now we're going to have a few words from Keith. Keith Runyon.
In the week when the Kentucky Derby makes Louisville the focus of the nation, there can't be a better time to announce this effort to forge new relationships and opportunities between all segments of our community, to cherish our past and embrace the opportunities for our future. Tension over historic preservation need not and should not occur. It offers a healthful, sustainable, and economically sound paradigm. Mayor Fisher has assembled a strong committee to address these issues, and we can all look forward to the opportunity to expand Louisville's reputation as a model to create a livable, compassionate, and healthy city in which we all work, live, and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Next, I'm going to ask Jim Lindberg to say a few words. Jim is Senior Director of Preservation Green Lab, which is a development arm of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Preservation Green Lab, which is already active in this community, connects historic preservation to the growing interest in sustainable development. Our new task force will work with Preservation Green Lab on data collection and building mapping studies, as well as contributing to discussions about how to break down barriers in building reuse. Please welcome Jim Lindberg. Jim.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and Keith, and members of the task force as well. We're delighted to be part of this process. I want to thank the Mayor in particular for his vision in establishing this task force. We really think this is a very timely and important initiative for Louisville. As the Mayor Fisher said, Louisville's heritage is really one of its great assets, not only historically, but for the future. And by heritage, I mean not just the landmarks and the places that many of us all recognize as historic and worth preserving, but also I mean the everyday buildings and blocks and neighborhoods that give this city such great character and charm. Places that in many ways over the years have been neglected, some of them, and some forgotten, but now are coming back. From Nulu to Germantown to Portland to here in Russell, we see evidence of all kinds that there's new interest in older places and in urban living in Louisville. And so we're excited to be part of this process to speed reinvestment in these neighborhoods, to make it easier to reinvest and revitalize the great old places that make Louisville special. As the Mayor mentioned, for the past year and a half, thanks to a generous grant from the Owsley Brown Foundation and many other supporters, we've been fortunate to work here in the city, and we've learned a lot about what a great place it is and how many people care about its future and its past. And through our research and in discussions with citizens and community leaders, we're really finding many strong connections between Louisville's great older buildings and the kinds of positive outcomes that I think everyone wants to see for the city. The old buildings that are providing places for new enterprises and businesses to grow, that are attracting new residents and young people back to the city in numbers that we haven't seen in generations. So we're thrilled that Mayor Fisher and his team and the task force are recognizing the role that older buildings play in the city, and we're looking forward to contributing our research, our data, examples from around the country to this process, and helping make Louisville a national model for how to do this right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. We're excited about our partnership with them and allowing us to bring in national best practices, and the fact that they've been working in our community for a year and a half already is, I think, a great asset. So we're really pleased with the partnership. Thank you. So if anybody has been around our city for any amount of time, they have driven by the Auerbacher Mansion before, and it has been quite some time before it has looked this beautiful. and it was about at the point of no return for many, many years. And this is a great example of the reuse that we're talking about today. The Auerbacher mansion was built in the 19th century. Today, it has been adaptively repurposed into affordable housing apartments. And this is just one of the 14 residential properties in this area that have been targeted by the Oracle Design Group in an overall historic residential rehab project. Today we have Karen Winter and her husband, Mark Wright, with us today of Oracle to tell us about this really strong work that they've been doing in the community. Karen?
Oh, I think Mark is just going to speak.
Mark? There's a good couple here. Okay, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming out and giving us this opportunity. The worst thing about coming out like this, we can't possibly thank everyone who was involved in this project because it took a team effort, and it was an incredible team effort with the city, Renita, David, people that never get any credit, never know about things. Nancy Williams with Louisville led. Kevin Mandring finally called Pork Chop, who was inspector out here, who just helped us make these projects possible. Again, we can't possibly thank everyone. We've been working in Louisville for a lot of years. George Unsel, who used to be the council person in this area, came up to me one time. Everybody knows me. I grew up on 18th in St. Louis. And George came up, and George is about 6'8", and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, we were doing work in this neighborhood, and he was really happy about it, and he came up to me and said, I'm really proud of you. It only took you 35 years to come 12 blocks. But what that speaks, it speaks volumes of how long we've been working with the city, working with city agencies to do work in this area, and one of the things we call it is collective memory. The mayor spoke about it. Collective memory, what these buildings mean to people in the area. I bet we can't go 5 minutes without someone saying, I remember when, I used to do this. Schools renovated, buildings renovated. I remember when that was like this, or I went to school there, or I remember when this was an old mansion. That collective memory, that is so important to this community. And what happens is every person in this area buys in to making this project work. And believe me, we needed the help. These have been difficult projects, but with help from the city, help from the neighborhood, and of course, Karen, my God, the brains in the outfit. She's the one that puts these deals together, makes these things happen. We are just a vehicle to help make these things happen in all the neighborhoods. And we're just one of many vehicles. And we appreciate the support of the city. We appreciate this opportunity to highlight this amazing building. And we just want to say thank you and have that opportunity. And I'm sorry if we forgot a lot of people, but it's not possible to thank everyone. But again, that collective memory in Louisville is so important. And these buildings are so important to bring back. We can talk about the economic impact, we can talk about the environmental impact. It's all there. It's the whole package. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and we hope we can continue to do work like this. Thank you, Mayor.
Great job. Thanks, Karen. Mark, appreciate that. Great work, great work. So the task force is going to get together and get started on their work here real soon. So again, I want to thank each member of the task force on behalf of the community. I also want to thank the staff members from Louisville Forward who will be acting as liaisons for the task force. There's been a lot of work to get us to this day, as you can imagine. So I want to thank Mary Ellen Wiederwall, who runs Louisville Forward over here. Cynthia Johnson, our Historic Preservation Officer, wave to the crowd, does a lot of work in the background. And Gretchen Milliken, our Director of Office for Advanced Planning. So thanks, everybody, for contributing to make this happen here today, and I'll be happy to take any questions on this particular topic.
Mr. Mayor, do you think that there is inherently a city law conflict with development preservation?
Absolutely not. Let's take an instance, for instance, Whiskey Row, what you see going on there right now. That is going to be one of the premier blocks in the country when that is done. And what's that doing, obviously, is saving the best of our past there, and it will have the most recent of new contemporary architecture in is part of the project as well. So I think the cities that can blend both preservation and current needs of the day are those that will stick out even more. And fortunately for us, we have got this great stock to work with.
How much does the city kind of maybe put a little bit of pressure on developers to save properties? I mean, obviously vision is the roads, Villa, they decided to there's controversy about not saving.
Yeah, that should be noted that part of this, what we're announcing today, came out of a lot of the controversy and drama that was around the Omni. That was a project where we knew that block was going to be developed for 7 or 8 years, and then, at the very last minute, there became unprecedented attention on the various pieces of that block. So out of that, I said, look, there's got to be a better way to do this. We've got to get more proactive. We've got to get more planful, and that's one of the things that led up here to today. So we obviously, as a city, want to take all alternatives into play, but the best case scenario is when it makes sense, both for a project and for financially, for us to incorporate historic structures into any type of development. Each project stands on its own. The Omni obviously stood on its own, and the results kind of speak for itself there, although we were able to preserve the facade and sides of the water company. But the purpose of this here today is to get ahead of a project like that so we don't have to go through that as a city again.
Mr. Mayor, will this task force deal with at all, some people in the administration said, some cumbersome rules when it comes to preservation, particularly when I think about my colleague Sheldon Chambers' piece about how we need to build more hotel rooms around town. Will this task force look at maybe easing some of those regulations?
No, that's really not related to what these guys are going to be working on. It's going to be just kind of the existing stock that we have and what our options are moving forward. Okay, thank you all very much.
This has been a Metro TV production, a public service of Louisville Metro government.